Radiant team ban.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Join Dota League Season 5. In 2 days, we get to see North American Rejects twice. I think this is their second game from their debut, and this time they're going to go up against Root Gaming in the second round of the Division 1-2 matches. I'm Mikelorus. I've got more Rage Please here as well. It's been a while, dude. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Glad to be back with you and HeflaTV, of course. Yeah, Nar looking pretty damn good yesterday up against the Surus. Nice, clean 2-0 from them. Surus putting up one definitely respectable game, the other not so much. So interesting to see how they fare and how they're gelling here with the new squad.
Yeah, I think there were definitely a couple of weird decisions in the draft, more so than and actually how they played. Like, the draft is where they were at their weakest. But, you know, it's for a new team, like, these guys have played with each other in, like, smaller, or, like, you know, two of them have played with two of them or whatever, but they haven't really played as a full team for that long, so it's not to be unexpected that they would stumble a little bit in really finding their footing and finding where they're comfortable with in the draft.
Yeah, it seems like they somewhat lack, I mean, of course, Fogg is a brilliant mind, but they somewhat lack that kind of direction in terms of having a captain with a real start plan for most of their games. But as you mentioned, I mean, they've scrimmed a lot together. They've played in iterations of many teams. So we'll jump right in here. Storm Spirit Lina going to be the opening from Root there. A lot of bursts already, some pick potential there. Pretty good setup as well for the LSA. That's a pretty strong opening from Root.
Yeah, we also saw North American Rejects run the Lina twice. Oh, was it twice? It might have been twice in the last series that we saw, like, of them versus Azurus. So maybe a little bit of metagaming stuff. As you said, definitely familiar. These teams are definitely familiar with one another, at least how they like to play. And Storm Spirit, you know, he's pretty good versus Shadow Fiend. Maybe not as much in the lane as when they're in that farming race. Then usually Shadow Fiend is going to do pretty darn well. But if you want to kill a Shadow Fiend, then you need burst damage and you need someone to get on top of them. And these two picks from Root, well, they satisfy both of those components.
Yeah, and generally that's going to force him straight into a BKB. I mean, you could go for the Eul's to purge off the Vortex, which isn't bad for the SF there. But yeah, as soon as Storm picks up that level 6, that little window before the BKB is going to come out for SF, he'll be very strong up against him. As you mentioned, a little bit of an advantage, I think, early on with the triple raise for the SF. And of course, in last hitting with him being able to stack up some souls. But Storm should be just fine not to get too much farm denied up against him, and he could maybe not go towards the mid lane. I mean, Lina has 670 base range, which is really crazy, so can fare decently well against the SF, and we all know how useful that Laguna Blade can be if you pick it up early.
Well, Nar also grabbed the Earthshaker as their secondary pick. It's probably going to be a support shaker, and well, usually it's I mean, if Earthshaker, I think, is at his best when he's with a sniper, just because you get the offensive and defensive components. You get very similar effects when you're going with the Shadow Fiend, really no matter what lane you go towards. And with the Lion second pick, North American Rejects, they're working with a hell of a lot of stun. It's a pretty clear ban up against the Storm Spirit, and that's actually enabled because Root decided to ban out the Spirit Breaker as their first ban. That's actually pretty weird. I would have thought that North American Rejects would be the ones more likely to make that ban.
Yeah, it synergizes a little bit better with the Dire lineup, it seems. But either way, we see 4 very strong supports for both sides. The Lion Earthshaker, as you mentioned, going to have a lot of disable offering that to Nar. It's also going to allow them to posture up defensively behind this SF, who is notoriously weak in terms of being ganked by a couple supports early on in that mid lane. So Nar looking to secure his farm for sure. I'm not sure, has Korok been playing mid? That'll probably be him up in the mid lane on the SF.
I think they, like, ran Ush there once, and then it was Korok the second time. It was like a player preference thing. Like, Ush was on the sniper mid, so I don't know exactly who's the quote-unquote mid player. I know that Fogged and Bleak, or Chad, if you are watching the screen, then those are the support players. And then after that, pretty much a juggle. MSS, I think, off lane.
Yeah, more often than not, probably MSS off lane, but I'm sure they do a shuffle, as you mentioned, with player preference. Nick's pick up here for NAR, not too bad into what Root have, but really unorthodox pick for them. You mentioned yesterday how they did a few questionable things in the draft. I'm not seeing really immediate synergy there. I mean, Ball Lightning, I guess, is a bit susceptible, as well as the Stampede to the Spike Carapace, but I really don't see the Nick's pick working out extremely well, at least this far into the draft.
And I gotta agree with you, partially because the last however many Nixes I've seen, like all the Nixes I've seen in this patch, have been
Hmm.
not very good. Like they just haven't had much of an impact. Of course, having a stun is nice on any hero, and picking up
Yeah.
with a hero with a stun has its value, but it's not even a guaranteed stun. Far from it, in comparison to the very similar stun and Earth Spike that the Lion has. So Nick Assassin, like characteristically, just doesn't have a good time, and he doesn't really hard counter many heroes on route. I mean, yeah, Scarith Mage, Rubik, Lina, these are all soft heroes that you can, in theory,
Yeah.
be ganking, but will that actually work out? And this is something that Nar kind of did in the first game of the last series versus Azurus. They ran with a lot of let's say lighter damage heroes, like Shadow Fiend is a really hard hitter. The rest of the Nar squad, not as much.
Yeah.
So once again, they may be running into a shortage of damage.
Yeah, and scalability for sure as well. It looks like it will be the Storm, probably in the safe lane now with that Rubik pickup Lina towards the mid. And as you mentioned, I mean, they do have some squishiness on the side of Rune, and certainly they are pretty intelligence heavy. So the mana burn may prove useful for the Nyx here, but I feel like with a lot of these heroes, Skywrath having the Ancient Seal, the LSA for the Lina, the Telekinesis for the Rubik, Nyx is probably going to have to sacrifice his Vendetta damage more often than not to go straight in for that stun, and for that reason, he'll probably need +1 for most of these ganks. So I really don't see him finding too many solo kills, despite there being quite a bit of squishiness over on the dire side.
Alright, so let's see if Nar can actually combine this Nyx Assassin with probably the Lion most of the times in order to get those kills, really with Nyx Assassin's damage output, assuming he does get that Vendetta hit in, which, as you
Yeah.
said, by no means guaranteed. He has enough damage that he only really needs a Shaker with a level 2, level 3 Fissure in order to get those kills, because Root, they are very soft. But
Yeah.
for Nar, I'm assuming there's going to be a mid lane Shadow Fiend, and okay, there we have some damage and a lot of tankability as well. Bristleback, kind of the mirror of Centaur in this particular game, but this is the late game power of North American Reject. Shadow Fiend and Bristleback, and they both work pretty darn well together. Bristleback providing that front line for the SF, but they also work
Yeah.
both with a lot of physical damage and minus armor.
I mean, it's hard to say into a Storm Spirit, but I think personally I would have liked an offlane Zeus better than the Nyx Assassin. There's so much squishiness on the other side, so Thunder God's Wrath could do a lot. It cancels the blink of the Centaur as well, but either way, yeah, Nyx could definitely work out for them. I've seen MSS go ham on his Nyx from time to time, so we'll see how it plays out here. Interested to see the core Lina up against Nar as opposed to it being in their possession.
Alright, so let's see how this game is going to shake down. Again, this is Division 1-2, the second round for Joe and Dota League, so, nothing too severe on the line. Loser drops down to the loser's bracket, winner just stays in winners, and that is about that. But we're in the game, so let's see who's going to be playing what for the North American Reject side. It's going to be Korok handling the Bristleback. MSS is going to be taking the Nyx Assassin up towards top. Chad or Bleak is on the Lion support with Fogg's Shaker. That leaves Ush on the Shadow Fiend. Looking towards bottom lane with Korok. That's probably not going to stick.
Yeah, I highly doubt that, but yeah, I expect Ush to go towards the mid lane. It'll be a little bit odd if he didn't. They may just be posturing up on that bounty rune. Either way, I guess we'll go over to the dire side route here. 4-man movement towards the top lane. Fluff playing on his Rubik. Very comfortable on that one. Monkey's Forever, the pub star. In the mid on the Storm Spirit, we got Jason on the Skywrath. That leaves DK on the Lina. And finally, the off lane will be Guanzo picking up the Centaur.
Alright, so I think they're probably just going to use this temporary lane assignment to grab the bounty rune on the bottom lane. Probably for Ush, grabbing a fast bottle up against both Lina and Storm Spirit, or anyone for the Shadow Fiend, is going to be a high priority. And for the Lion, he does have boots first. Shaker has 3 clarities. This is the type of loadout that you can play very aggressively with. So I think for these two support heroes, Nar is just going to try to get a read on the root lanes and then gank very aggressively accordingly. No matter what lane they go towards, they will have kill potential.
Yeah, definitely so. And I thought that they might put Lina just for a slightly better matchup 1v1 against the SF mid, but Monkey's Forever has picked up the Storm right now, and he's usually in the mid lane. And as you mentioned, Skywrath Rubik Lina is a super scary tri-lane, Spike Carapace or not. So that may be the decision here from Root, and I certainly wouldn't blame them. I don't think they sacrificed too much from Monkeys staying in that mid lane. He plays SF quite a bit, so I'm sure he's comfortable facing up against him, knowing what he's trying to do.
And if you partner Lina up with first of all, amplification, Ancient Seal with Lina damage.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
definitely a thing. And Lina getting a little bit of setup from a telekinesis, who, by the way, also has boots of speed first, fluff and stuff. Then the Lina combo, it's gonna hurt a lot, and it will maybe not be enough to kill off the Nyx Assassin because he may be able to get the Spike Carapace off. But if you silence him first, then lift him up, and then you drop that LSA on him, that's probably going to be a kill because
Yeah.
even after that, if the spell combo doesn't kill off the Nyx Assassin, having 3 ranged heroes just wailing on him probably will.
Yeah, and I mean, even into like the level 4 territory, Fiery Soul is pretty underrated early on. Nyx Assassin, one of the heroes with high base armor, but still, the right clicks can do a lot of work on top of all the magic damage that they do have. Hopefully, we can get these connection or AFK issues rectified here, but it should be a good series here. I do kind of expect it to go to 3 games. I expect at least Root to put up a better fight than ISG did yesterday.
Yeah, but then again, we saw Nar just completely go off yesterday,
Hmm.
so I actually still don't know how good this team actually
Yeah.
is. I think this is probably going to be a better litmus test to see
Hmm.
the quality of the North American rejects, but who knows? We're going to need like 2 or 3 additional series after this one to get a read on exactly how good they are and how well they stand up in the American scene.
Yeah, certainly so. Looks like we're going to get things underway here. Both teams looking at the bounty runes right now, but movement towards mid from Root, maybe looking to deny this up or get this for their offlaner, Guanzo, I should say. An early level 2 on the Centaur helps him out quite a bit in lane with something in the return. He's already skilled up his Hoof Stomp.
And he will have a lot of support here. The kill potential with these 4 heroes, it can kill any hero in Dota, probably 2 of them as well. So if anyone gets lifted, especially the Shadow Fiend, that could be lethal. He's going to get dragged not into the Centaur. The greedy attempt from Fluff and stuff to... But that would have... It wouldn't have even done anything. I don't know why he didn't try to drag him into the Centaur.
Yeah, I wouldn't have exactly trapped him on that cliff, but either way, he will drag him away from the bounty rune. They'll secure that for their offlaner. It looks like the top one was picked up by the opposite offlaner in MSS's Nyx.
Right, so Nick's definitely going to be happy that he has already almost towards level 2, mostly because you need level 3 in Assassin to feel really safe, getting 1-1-1, and then you have a stun to try to save yourself with the secondary stun Spike Carapace, or I guess that's the primary stun, but MSS until then isn't really going to feel completely comfortable unless it's just him by himself. Fluff and stuff with the boots first, with this Gareth Mage, can put a lot of hurt towards this mid lane. It's a very fragile hero in mid, and DK is already level 2, so if a telekinesis lands and if Fluff doesn't try to cliff Ush, then that may very well be a kill.
Yep, already going to see him ferry out a set of tangos for himself, Ush here. But yeah, as you mentioned, Jason going to be posturing up here in the mid lane and backing him off. We did see Fluff return to top. He does a little bit of de-warding here, so he'll take some information away from MSS, and that should help Monkeys to play a little bit more aggressively.
And Storm Spirit is usually going to have a pretty substantial edge in this lane. Even Mana Burn on MSS isn't really going to hurt the Storm Spirit that badly. Yeah, having mana is nice so that you can get that additional damage from the Remnant, but we just saw right there that Remnant isn't exactly what you want to be doing all the time as a Storm because that's by Carapace. MSS going pretty ham onto Monkeys. Unfortunately, missed the Impale, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be the first of many. Nyx Assassins are typically going to struggle with landing that skill, unless they have Lion or Shaker to set up beforehand.
Yeah, it's certainly a rough one to land. Not the best animation point on it either. MSS going to be zoned out here by Fluff and stuff, but traditionally Nyx does very well in 1v1s. He's got decent right click. He's got good base armor, as we alluded to earlier, so they are going to have to give some support over to Monkeys from time to time. Already, though, the bounty rune going to Jason, and he's found level 2 despite being stuck in mid. Fogged has joined him and only has 66 XP above his start.
And then, of course, we have our bottom lane. The Centaur is getting bullied a little bit by Bleak's Lion, and then this is, of course, freeing up Korok to do whatever the hell he wants. Up towards top, MSS is just constantly brawling, and he's taking quite a bit of damage, does have a salve, so it doesn't look like he's in too much trouble of dying. Actually going pretty aggressive versus Fluff, despite his lack of HP right now. He's probably going to have to salve, but yeah, he just doesn't want to get that cancelled. This is actually working out pretty well for MSS, despite the fact that he did just get his salve cancelled, because every single time he's going aggressive, he's hanging around the creep wave, and he's actually getting some experience by getting into those small fights.
Yeah, he's playing real man Dota here, and probably just wanted to get the full worth out of that self jumping forward. He will get telekinesed up and does have the Strike Carapace available to him, so should be just fine. He is taking quite a bit of harass here, though. He will pop the Carapace now. Fluff's still going to throw an attack at him, and we'll just eat this stun. He'll make it away, but first blood happens elsewhere. That's Ush in the mid lane, going down to DK and Jason.
Man, of course I had to miss the first blood. Who could have seen that one coming? Come on, guys. But Skywrath Mage and Lina, the only real weakness in this combo is that it is a little bit more difficult to set up for that LSA, although the concussive shot does do a pretty darn good job. Not as great as a point click like a telekinesis or something like that, but up against someone like Shadow Fiend, you don't have to work too hard once you land that first skill to actually kill him off. So it is going to be a first blood for the Skywrath Mage. He's going to commit Sudoku and then take the expressway back to the base, but he already has that boots now, and if Skywrath Mage continuously sits on Ush in mid, then the Shadow Fiend is going to fall further and further behind the Lina. Is right now a little bit behind, not anything that he can't recover from, but going into 1v2 up against such a deadly kill lane, and Ush is going to have to play very far away from the creep line.
Yeah, it's a little bit scary that Root haven't necessarily found too many trades off of the Skywrath sitting in mid. Jason with that kill now at level 3. Rubik at level 3 as well. And the Earthshaker from the other side only level 1, and he only has the one stack prepared for his SF at the large camp in mid. So, I mean, if they had found a triple stack there, maybe a double stack in the medium camp, I wouldn't be too worried about the current situation. But I do worry a bit for Gnar having their Earthshaker recover here for Fogged.
You would think he would just be 100% pulling the entire time. I don't believe these pull camps were blocked by Root, so the Earthshaker rather, should have just been handling that the entire time. Bleak had his hands full, actually zoning out the Centaur, and that, at least in theory, should be what was going on. I haven't really been paying close attention to Fogged. He was hanging around the mid lane for a little bit, so that's why the jungle isn't super stacked, but still, he's only level 1, and granted, they don't actually need the Earthshaker to get a super high amount right now because they have a Bristleback and a lot of early stuns to hold down the fort, but still, he is suffering, and he's now forced to just leech a little bit of experience with lane. Maybe they're looking for a kill. They're going to run to Guanzo. Fissure blocked off, but this Centaur is level 4. He's just going to run at Bleak. Thankfully, he has boots first. Fogged is not the one you want to have hugging the Centaur, but with Korok coming in, I think they do have enough damage to get this kill. Quill Spray, and then just good spacing from Korok. They're going to bait out that Stomp, and then they're going to beat him down afterwards. Who's going to get the last hit here? It looks like it's going to be the Lion.
Yeah, Centaur getting quite a bit level 4, but it is a big kill going the way of that trio. And as you mentioned, pretty much the spacing from the side of Gnar was what secured that for them. MSS still playing very manly top lane, just battling up against Fluff and stuff. But he hasn't really stopped the Storm Spirit from farming. He's sitting atop the CS board 27-9 to the 20-12 of his laning equivalent.
And there's no mana burn yet on this Nyx Assassin, which is what we both agreed that was going to be probably one of the biggest assets that Nyx Assassin actually had up against so many int heroes. He probably will be getting it eventually. Obviously, you want to get the extra points in the stun because it's a stun. But yeah, MSS, he just needs to get a little bit more experience. Thankfully for him, the wave is pushing pretty far in, but level 6 is not always going to be a guaranteed kill from the Nyx Assassin just because everyone on route will be waiting for it.
Yeah, definitely. And we touched on it before. They do have tools to deal with it. Speaking of which, Guanzo still quite a ways away from his Stampede at this point. Still needs his boots of speed to complete up the Tranquils. But top lane, Jason has gone in. Ancient Seals there with a concussive shot. One Fade Bolt's all that's needed with the amplification. And MSS, after playing very far forward early, maybe a little bit of false security with that ward and gets taken down.
Yeah, not even enough time to use his stick charges, which wouldn't have saved him, granted, but still, that burst damage from just the Skywrath Mage and Rubik is insane, and if you add a now level 6 Lina to that combo, yeah, you can kill off pretty much anyone. So this top lane going pretty darn well for Root. They have Monkeys Forever very comfortably leading the CS board, even ahead of Korok's Bristleback down on the bottom lane. Mid is still slightly favored towards DK, but nothing too substantial there. But the Nyx Assassin, he's not getting that much gold, whereas Centaur is. Maybe Centaur's, he's probably just going to go for Tranquils right now, and he doesn't really have a great backup plan, but as he said, level 6 on Centaur will allow the other supports of Root to play, or other supports and Lina of Root to play more aggressively and get those kills.
Yeah, Fog just missed the stack, unfortunately, on the large cap again. So still only the triple that he made it at 5 minutes, unfortunately. So Ush not going to have the immediate comeback mechanic that he would like. The triple stack still nice for him, but won't quite put him where he wants to be at this point. It looks like the laning decision from Root has worked out thus far.
Yeah, pretty much every lane has gone as well as they could have. Like, they're shutting down the Nyx Assassins, farming by quite a bit. DK and Shadow Fiend drawing even, and unless you're going to commit like 2 or 3 heroes towards the SF, you probably can't expect much better than that. So for Root, their laning decisions are working out pretty decently. And for Gnar, they went for the obvious lanes, I think. Like, if you show anyone this draft, they're going to tell you these lanes almost exactly. But, I mean, that's just a lack of flexibility, I suppose, hurting them. They're going to run to MSS one more time. Silence, and here comes Monkey Star with Ball Lightning up. MSS is going to pretty much die before the Storm Spirit really arrives. And Assassin is going to go down. Rubik's going to grab that last hit. And Assassin, still, without being in lane, needs to get this experience to level 6. But it seems to be the story of every Nyx Assassin game I see. Just, he ends up in situations like this where he just gets jumped constantly and can't get anything done in the game.
Yeah, Spike Carapace may be allowing you to play a little bit further forward than you're actually able to do, and it's a little bit deceptive in that sense. But either way, mid lane, we are going to see some grouping up here. Concussive Shot going to be thrown out. Fog going to catch DK on his side of the Fissure, but no aggression going to be committed from Ush despite MSS backing him up here, and everyone just gonna back off for the time being. Jason and Fluff rotating down towards the Ancients. Looks like they were pinged out from the high ground ward from the Radiant side, but no one looking for anything just yet.
I do like what Gnar are doing, though, with their mid lane. With Ush and his high damage, he's able to go into the jungle and clear that out without putting himself in too much trouble. Hasn't even touched the stack just yet, but he will eventually go for that. And because the Shadow Fiend's off in the jungle, that means the Shaker is actually able to absorb some experience in the mid lane. Suddenly he's level 4, and it almost seems like he was just pulling that entire time, even though he actually wasn't. So they juggle the Shadow Fiend and Earthshaker just a little bit and use that to recover the Shaker. They're going to die Fluff and stuff over in the bottom lane. Fissure is there, and it's really hard to escape the Bristleback, even if he didn't have a Lion and Shaker right behind him.
Yeah, no TP support as they saw quite a few there. Very nice long-range Impale coming out from Bleak, and they'll tie it up 3-3. Of course, there was the one suicide from the Skyra, so still slight edge to Root's way, especially in terms of experience. I believe at this point their mid lane has quite a gap. DK sitting at level 8.5 right now to the Shadow Fiend, who actually has picked up quite a bit off that stack and is looking at parity.
Yeah, when you kill off that many hard creeps, you're typically going to skyrocket net worth, but ooh, Korok. Okay, well, people are dying over in mid. DK just going off on the Shadow Fiend all alone also. Wow, I wasn't even considering that would be a possible kill, but DK just landed a random LSA, dumped the entire combo in, and that's that. But Korok, he's going to man up and get an armlet. This is a fighting build for Bristleback. None of that wimpy stuff, no mechanism or anything like that, no Vanguard. This is a killing build.
Yeah, it's kind of odd into all of the burst here, but there's nothing ticking too much. So, yeah, actually no tick damage really from the side of Root. So if he toggles this well, it should be a pretty damn good item to tank him up early on. And yeah, the LSA mid just caught the edge of Ush, and then a couple right clicks with that. Just the one value point in LSA was able to garner the kill there for DK. So that's a very nice solo kill going his way.
They're going to put Fluff and stuff down on the bottom lane. He is in a lot of trouble, however. One goo lands, and that's pretty much his doom. Oh, actually, no, not with the level 6. They're going to have to use that to bail Fluff out. But that's not really worth it. Like, it's not the highest cooldown in the game, but you don't really want to put your support in a position that will force your Centaur to use your ultimate every single time. He did get level 6, though, so I'm pretty sure Fluff and stuff will not put himself in any similar position in the future.
Yeah, stealing Quill Spray, not the best one to find early on. Bristleback just generally not the best target for a spell steal, but either way, yeah, Fluff finally finding his level 6. That's a nice pickup for the side of Root. There's a couple good things to steal if he's able to position himself well, particularly what the Lion and the Earthshaker have to offer.
They're going to smoke up for top lane now. Gnar, they have that level 6 in the Nyx Assassin, and they have a Centaur in their sights. It's not exactly the easiest hero to kill, but with 3 heroes, they definitely have enough damage to do it. No, they're actually going to go into the enemy jungle, where there's monkeys forever. They might have to impale out of the Vendetta. Chad's going to reveal himself, and that will blow the entire thing. That's a little bit unfortunate. MSS he had to be the one to open up, and now the retaliation smoke is incoming. Fluff and stuff closing in pretty fast. He'll grab Enchant Totem, not what you want to steal, and DK gets walled off. So 2 smokes, 0 kills.
Oh, Fisher would have been absolutely amazing there as they walk down the choke of as three. Probably could have hit all three of them, especially Rubik's cast animation time. But yeah, a little bit of miscommunication, I guess, from Bleak and MSS there, and showing what happens when you just throw a team together very recently. Not able to pick off monkeys. Good game sense from him as well. As soon as he sees that line, he knows he's not alone in the enemy jungle, and he's able to zip out 1,800 gold up on the storm. It'll be interesting to see what he's building into. I still love the Orchid in this matchup.
Yeah, I think Orchid, great versus that Nyx Assassin, great versus the Shadow Fiend. And of course, Orchid is always good against the enemy supports, pretty much no exception. Not great versus the Bristle. He could cast spells and you don't really care about that too much, but he does have the Soul Ring, or not the Soul, yeah, the Soul Ring already, so maybe there's going to be a Bloodstone in his near future. Maybe it's going to be a little bit more of a far off future for him. It is a possibility, but with 2,000 gold, I want to say if you're going for an Orchid, you grab Staff by now, just for that minor amounts of regen.
Yeah, so a little odd that he's sitting on all this gold, and probably why I'm wondering what his next choice is. But either way, there will be one way to deal with that from Gnar, and that's the Yules that's going to be coming out here shortly for Ush. He's still about 800 gold away, if I'm not missing a Staff of Wizardry somewhere. And yeah, nothing on the Courier. So Ush hasn't farmed extremely well, but has kept up. If you take a look at the net worth, he's just underneath the other of 3 cores in the game.
Yeah, but if you compare him to his mid lane opponent, DK already does have that Yule Scepter up, so both the Shadow Fiend and Lina going for very similar builds, and clearly the Lina has a little bit more at this stage, so DK, with the solo kill potential, also has level 3 in the Fiery Soul, so even if he doesn't burst you down, he will work you down by the end of it. If Shadow Fiend at this point gets hit with that Yules, he's just dead, and there's the Yule Scepter. LSA is going to miss, and well, they'll throw their Luna Blade anyway, but yeah, okay, I meant he would just die if that combo actually landed. If you miss the combo, you're not going to get the kill. They're going to chase forward, try to look for a support pick-off now, Gnar, but that's not going to result in too much.
Yeah, if he hits the Dragon Slave there for DK, it would have been real close. Ush was sitting at about 295 HP at the time, and Dragon Slave does 320 before resistances, but either way, Fisher goes out. That may be allowing Monkeys to open here. He's going to Ball Lightning to the right. Finger is going to go out onto the Skyroth, and that'll bring him down. Bleak able to rotate up the hill just fine, but there's going to be a Ball Lightning forward. They will finish him off. Requiem channeled up, 2-man stomp, hit by Guanzo. The LSA is there onto Fogged as well. One more double edge will bring him down, but Guanzo going to trade his life for it, and overall offlaner and support for 2 supports, and Gnar still looking pretty healthy.
Yeah, it's the 2 for 2 that does favor the North American reject side. Korok getting a lot of cash from that one. 2,300 gold now in the bank account of this Bristleback. Awkward exchange for Root. Like, it was really just the CC power of Gnar's heroes that won them that fight, just because they were able to poke away at the enemy side with their long-range stuns, Spike, the Fissure, and then really evaluate whether or not they wanted to get into that fight. They did. They just walked in, blew up the Skyroth Mage with the Finger of Death, and that was that. So Root with a little more flexibility in how they take these fights until the Storm Spirit actually picks up an item and is able to initiate on behalf of the Root side, or the Centaur gets his initiation off, which was decent. Guanzo landed a pretty good hoof stomp, but he just didn't have the right support there. So it is a 2 for 2 that's going to benefit Gnar, and Storm Spirit, he's still holding onto gold. I think unless you're going for an item that costs this much, holding on to this much gold is a mistake. And okay, there you go, Soul Booster. Could have had a little bit more health and mana though if you just grabbed the smaller components.
Yeah, it's a little odd that he doesn't have that in the mid-fight there. Not sure that it would have changed things all that much, but definitely would have allowed him to stay in the fight a little bit longer. He jumped out to the east with that first Ball Lightning, and he was a little bit out of position to do damage. As you mentioned, just a little awkward all around from Root. DK, though, is going to find Bleak here. Will he hit the combo this time? He does not once again. They're going to pop the Stampede, though. That allows him to dodge the Impale. The Hoof Stomp is there. Fish are going to disrupt things, but just the Dragon Slave and the double edge with a lot of burst there. They'll bring down an easy support pickoff, but the ward's still standing on the high ground for now.
And well, I don't know what's going on with DK right now, but if you're going to be playing a mid Lina on a team like Root, you should be able to land that combo every single time. That was the second time that he was under no pressure as well. Like, there was no other hero incoming. He just had himself and the enemy Lion, and he's still with the combo. Luckily, he had Guanzo there to bail him out. Now they're going to try to go once again for a kill. It's going to be Korok this time. Blink, Hoof Stomp, LSA. This time going to land Laguna Blade to the dome. And Bristleback, Harmlet, not going to help you there. Though the pipe later on might. He doesn't really have it right now. DK is going to get a kill.
Yeah, Guanzo been very on point thus far, and good on him to keep the Bristleback facing forward for that Lina, or mostly forward anyways. and he's been on point with the hoof stomps thus far. Even though it didn't really win them the engagement in mid, it definitely did mitigate some of the damage that was potentially able to be dished out by Gnar there. Bristleback really has been able to keep up, but now Ush been given a little time, has picked up the Yules of his own, and is sitting pretty at the top of the net worth chart along with the Lina and the Storm of the enemy.
So I know I've been smack talking the Nyx Assassin pick and just as a hero a lot over the course of this game already, but we can already see like the impacts that Nyx Assassin is having in this game. He has 3,300 net worth behind the enemy Rubik. He really hasn't set up a single kill. Like, there was one attempt, but that's about it. And you compare him to the Centaur. Centaur's setting up so many kills for his team and is guaranteeing them on core heroes as well, like the Bristleback, which I'm not even sure if the Nyx Assassin can replicate something like that. So still, I'm just waiting for Nyx Assassin and MSS to really kick into gear. Maybe it'll be off in the back of the smoke, but it's really going to hard to see the Nyx Assassin's impact when all the heroes are here. They will go deep into the enemy woods. And this time they will see Monkeys Forever, maybe, although Monkeys Forever, he just finished farming. And now he's just going to run away. Both sides smoke up, and once again, there will be no kills.
Yeah, they're going to posture up near the Roche pit, but don't know that they have the damage to take this down in a reasonable amount of time. Guanzo probably going to run into the 5-man lineup here. He will blink out to the left, though, and that'll keep him safe for now. Very good reaction timing from him. He's been awesome thus far in this one. MSS waiting it out in the trees. Doesn't have a hatchet. Has one tango, though. Maybe going to look to find Guanzo with an impale, but hasn't done so. Looks to wrap around to the east. Guanzo still in the fog. And he will blink down to the south. Great game sense from the Centaur here. And MSS, just no one home there for that moment when he blinked down. It looks like they will forfeit the tier 1, however. Going to pop this glyph, but looking to trade and already have picked off that tier 1 on the Radiant safe lane.
Oh, little mistake there from Gnar. They don't activate their own fortification, but it doesn't really matter there. It would have been a 1-for-1 trade either way. That was actually a pretty risky blink from Guanzo. He had no idea where the enemies were. He just knew that there were enemies around. He could have just blinked into a whole bunch of them. In that case, he's instantly dead, but he plays very sneakily and gets rewarded. So Guanzo on the Centaur so far doing a pretty good job at, well, that time staying alive, but also setting up for his team now. It's just a 1-for-1 tower trade. It's not really going to be benefiting any particular team in a huge way. But the gold is going to let Monkeys Forever finish up his Bloodstone. So we'll see how many souls he can put into this thing. And if he gets 1 or 2 without dying, then that can cascade Storm Spirit into just an unstoppable position. And they do see MSS down in this bottom lane.
DK bought a Shadow Blade on Lina. A little bit odd. He's used that to try and get back up with his teammates. He'll convene with them on the high ground here. And look for some pickoffs. Maybe this will allow him to hit his LSAs a little bit more reliably, but I feel like that gold could have been much better spent towards an Agonist.
Well, hey, if you're going to go for a battle build eventually, you might as well start right now. Shadow Blade's not really the best damaging item, but hey, if you get a couple of kills with that Shadow Blade, it'll pay for itself, and Root, they're certainly kind of playing in such a way that would indicate that the Shadow Blade is the right item. Look how aggressively they're postured in the enemy jungle. Unfortunately, they're just pacing back and forth, and they're not actually finding anyone until Scarth Mage runs into Ush. He's gonna get the silence off in the Shadow Fiend. That doesn't stop him from hitting you with 150 some odd damage. DK at the same time is gonna have to TP out from Bleak and Korok. He will escape the situation as the Fissure goes towards Monkeys. He needs to get the ball in the out, but he gets hexed, and now he's going to go down. That's a double kill for Ush and Root. They play so aggressively, but not in the correct position to do so.
Yeah, and you touched upon it earlier, how much the Sable is at the disposal of Gnar, and they're going to find a very nice engagement mid, and all of a sudden, Ush is going to find 2 with a Requiem as well. And
not
that's
even Requiem,
huge.
just Yules into raises. Like, Rubik is paper right now.
Wow, and Ush looking very good. They're going to take the tier 1 off this, presumably, but the LSA is going to hit. TPs are inbound as well. There's no Laguna Blade, though. Ush going to pop the BKB, channeling up the Requiem. Will he get it off before he dies? It's just the Death Requiem, unfortunately for him, and they bring down the SF down for 50 seconds. They're going to look to re-engage here. MSS pulled up in the air. The LSA will hit. The Spike Carapace is there as well. Ancient Seal out onto MSS, but Korok going really far deep with the armlet, and the pipe popped up. One last swipe. He'll bring down the Skywrath, and that'll be the end of that engagement. Overall, just the 1-for-1 after Ush's kill, the Shadow Fiend for the Skywrath.
Yeah, and that is the first usage of BKB there for the Shadow Fiend. Less than ideal, to say the least, and he gets jumped by a whole bunch of heroes. If he did get that Requiem off, he would have definitely killed off the Centaur, who is giving him a hug. Maybe it would have been enough damage to kill off the Scarth Mage as well. But unfortunately, Shadow Fiend a little bit hesitant as to whether or not he should pop that ultimate, and ends up paying the price for it. But that being said, he still has BKB Eul Scepter, and he still has the makings of what I assume to be a Yasha in this game. I don't think you go for anything else in the Blade of Alacrity, but yeah, the Shadow Fiend's getting quite a bit of farm. He's on top of the net worth, and all those kills and clearing out those stacks certainly helping him quite a bit. In fact, 2 cores on Gnar, they are both leading the way.
Yeah, they started to finally surmount a lead for themselves here. They take a 3k gold lead all the way back to pretty much equilibrium at this point. So Root needs to be a little bit careful. Perhaps this is why this is at least revealing that maybe an Orchid would have been a bit better for Monkeys here. He hasn't been able to get too much done in most of these engagements. Of course, getting picked off in the enemy jungle is not always going to help the cause either.
Yeah, it's still not too late to actually get some charges into that Bloodstone. Similarly for the Lina, that Shadow Blade, so far more or less a dead item in her inventory. So DK as well as Monkeys not really making the best out of their items. They're going to jump forward for Ush, scare him a little bit with a hoof stomp, but that's about all they can do without overcommitting into someone that they probably can't kill. And if they do kill, then there will be casualties on the Root side. But for Gnar, really, I mean, they're working a lot more cost effectively. They have the pipe now for the team, right up against the Lina Skywrath Rubik combo, even Centaur. Still haven't seen MSS's Nyx do anything, but hey, if Shadow Fiend and Bristleback keep playing like how they are, then they don't really need an Nyx Assassin. They just need an additional stun.
Yeah, and I mean, Monkeys farm like crazy, but really hasn't done much. They now picked up a gem as well, so looking to establish some semblance of map control for the Radiant side, and also just deny vision up against what should be a very aggressive lineup in the mid game with a Storm Spirit and a Centaur for Root, as well as the Shadow Blade build, I guess, on the Lina. So nice decision from them. Blink forward from MSS. He's going to look to catch out someone in the trees, but DK not home. And they will secure that tier 2 in the mid lane. A lot of map control goes their way. As they bring that down, they'll drop a deep ward as well.
It's still a worthwhile play there for MSS. They saw the Lina go in, and well, when she's in the trees, she could be anywhere, so you might as well fire something and hope that you hit. If you hit, then you get the kill. Otherwise, it's fine. You have enough mana regen with a Soul Ring to actually shrug that one off. But it's a free tower for Gnar, and that is something that Root should really not be giving up. As you said, they should be dictating the pace of the game at this stage with a Lina and a Storm on their side, but they're sitting back. They're a little bit scared. And Gnar, because they took down one tier 2 without Root resisting at all, they're going to go for another, and they're going to run into DK. Where's that gem? It's on the Nyx Assassin. He's going to run into... Oh, there it is, onto DK. Wrong place, wrong time, Lina. They also get Eul Scepter onto the Skywrath Mage. He's not going to land into an Impale. Seems like Gnar, or everyone really, having some real difficulties with how they use their Eul Scepters, but it doesn't really matter because 2 kills for the Shadow Fiend and probably an Aegis as well.
Who said this item was OP? This item is terrible, honestly.
Monkeys doesn't do anything. You keep on missing your skills.
Yeah, and Monkey's just off farming on the other side as if he's an anti-mage, split pushing, and he's not quite as good in terms of that. So it's a little bit odd for me to see the Storm Spirit as uninvolved as he's been, especially considering having a Bloodstone, albeit his team has been caught out. Telekinesis up onto MSS. The Impale is there as well, but the Fissure onto Fluff and Stuff to follow up the Spike Carapace. Easy death on the Rubik. Monkey's now on the high ground, has been pinged out by Korok. They're going to Eul's him up in the air. Impale is here from Bleak. He's going to hex him up first. Jump though, forward though. Guanzo going to get a stomp off onto Ush, and he'll snipe the Aegis as well. Ush getting really low underneath BKB. Impale is there on top of the Fissure. They'll bring down Monkeys. Ush trying to run away. He'll channel up the Requiem on the high ground. Brings Guanzo low. The Echo Slam brings him down as well. But he's got the Aegis, but there's no support inbound for Root, and he'll just die another time here. Ush barely making it out. At least Guanzo denies up the Aegis. Could have gone a lot worse for Root.
He denies the Aegis. He also actually gets the last hit on Roshan. The Blink Hoof Stomp cut off all the damage output from Gnar because it was only Ush in that Roshan pit. So big plays from that Centaur. Once again, it is the Centaur to really bail his team out of a really crappy situation. Storm Spirit, I think, lost most of his mana while he was up on this little cliff area. He already dropped his Null Talisman. He was ready to snipe that Aegis. But, I mean, I guess Root do get it after all, and it does eventually, I guess, slow down the push from Gnar, but still, no matter how you slice it, it is a nice victory for the Radiant side because they did walk away with so many kills. They just kept on getting those stuns off, and Nyx Assassin, he finally got a chance to actually use his stuns because he was set up by both Fogged as well as Bleak. But Gnar, even though they don't have an Aegis right now, I still think they're powerful enough to just keep going for these tier 2s and force Root into a fight.
Yeah, and you alluded to it earlier, and I really think it's the difference at this point in the game. I mean, you look at it on paper, and this mid game from Root should be really strong, but their itemization just hasn't been favorable for them. And you see things much more cost efficient, like the armlet and the pipe on the side of Korok. Continuing with that theme, it looks like he'll build into an AC here, and it just has really helped them out in these 5-on-5 engagements. In fact, Nar has had the numbers advantage a couple of times as well, so things just working out for them all together in the way they're moving as a team.
Yeah, just dead items in the Root inventory. Yule Scepters will say that all these Yule Scepters are just a waste of gold for these teams. They're just not landing their combos. But it is going to be a very easy tower destruction up on top side. Korok with Armlet plus a Hyperstone is going to beat that one down. It is bleak to grab that last hit, but Nar, they're going to push fast enough to force Root to come back and defend. If Nar win a nice team fight right now, this could be Rax's, and that can very well be game. BKB on Storm Spirit. If you're Root, you gotta fight right now, and if you're not gonna fight now, then you might as well just leave. Guanzo, he's gonna blink in. BKB is up, but he can't find an angle to hoof stomp anyone. He's going to look for Ush. He's gonna run into a BKB, however. Here comes the Storm Spirit, can go straight for Fog. He also has his BKB up, but he just can't get a target right now. They're all piped up, and they took literally no damage from this. BKB on the Storm Spirit and Centaur both wasted. I guess this Shadow Fiend also uses his. But Bristleback, he just has to wait a little bit for his pipe, and if they want to do that even, they could just go right in and go for this tier 3 tower. That was a massive failure from Root.
Yeah, Telekinesis up and into the hoof stomp. Concussive shot is there as well. Mystic Flare onto Korok. Laguna Blade going to finish him off. Two-man impale coming out from MSS. Finger's not going to be enough to bring down Guanzo, though, and the Fade Bolt finishes off the Nyx as well. And wow, somehow, after having such a great situation, Nar not able to reset or counter-initiate, and they feed away too.
It was Korok way too far ahead on the front lines. As tanky as he is, you got to remember that Ancient Seal is a ridiculous skill, as is the Mystic Flare. They're going to catch a Shadow Fiend. Okay, DK, you better not miss it this time. He will, because Shadow Fiend uses his own Yule Scepter, but I don't think the Shadow Fiend really has many places to run. He does have BKB cooling down. He's going to pop the Requiem right on top of Guanzo. Suddenly he's taking no damage. One more raise, not quite going to get the kill, but Chad and Fog coming in for the back end will get a double. It's Fogged with the Fissure to grab it. And Root, they once again just can't get this Yule Scepter to work out, although I do think it was mostly a little bit more because of Nar's play this time. And it results into 2 kills for Nar. That should have just been a free roll for Root. If you find a Shadow Fiend in that position with the Lina like that, most of the time you get that kill.
I guess that's a miscommunication between Guanzo and the Lina there, just because why overlap those stuns? I mean, you know he's going to come down and you expect him to die regardless, but if the LSA is going to land, there's no need to drop the hoof stomp right away, and having to miss both of those means Ush just walks away. Very good sense from him on the high ground, channels up that Requiem, looks to man up, and he does get support by that time. So Yule Scepter buying a lot of time for Nar there, allowing them to pretty much get back what they lost on the high ground, although the gem is still in the possession of Root. I believe Monkeys had it at some point after MSS died.
Now Guanzo has it, so Centaur probably, well, he's definitely the hardest one to bring down as far as raw numbers are concerned, but Storm Spirit probably the better one to have it, and he will grab it. After all, Nar, they're going to grab an Assault Cuirass on this Bristleback with that Hyperstone, so next time they go for that top push, they're going to do a lot more damage, just half of the tower's health, and they still have this bottom tier 2 to work through. They will smoke up with 3 heroes, MSS with the Vendetta available. Not quite going to pop it, but they're going to lay Ush out as bait. And this is like the most obvious bait in the world for Root. They don't have heroes in the area that can bite, but still, if any of them assemble, then they will be in for Root Awakening.
Yeah, they're going to TP one at least back to the top lane. That'll be Ush for now. He's not bait, but Monkey's not going to jump forward. A little bit worried about what lurks in the fog behind him. There's going to be a 4-man movement from the rest of the squad of Nar, and they will run into Jason here as he walks down to the low ground. There's going to be a blink forward, Enchant Totem Impale onto the Skywrath. He's pretty much dead to rights, and his team just going to leave him there. Not the biggest loss for this side of Root, but either way, smoke successful for Nar.
Man, I love that movement from Nar. They jump into the Skywrath Mage, stun him up, a little bit of layering, of course, and that's less than ideal, but instead of just focusing the Skywrath Mage, they fan out with their Lion and their Shaker, looking for anyone else who could possibly be near the Skywrath Mage, knowing that no matter what Root did, the Skywrath Mage was definitely going to go down. So they were ready for a full-on team fight. That just wasn't there. Still, they get a kill, and they're going to be pretty happy about that. DD Rune on the Bristleback with half duration can let them go for a pretty aggressive play or look for a team fight, but it seems like Ush just isn't ready just yet. He has one ultimate orb, or 2 ultimate orbs rather, one in the Mantis style, but with an Eye of Scotty, I presume incoming for this Shadow Fiend, and this Gnar side are just skyrocketing in their damage output. And what do Root have to kind of match that? Storm with the old BKB, Lina with an Aghanim Scepter. It's good, but I don't really know if it's going to be good enough.
Yeah, I really feel like the Orchid would have helped Root out a lot here, not to touch on it too much. The Nick's a little bit low there for MSS, so they opt not to go for that high ground push, but he'll regen up with his Tranquils. He's got the Blink now, has been a little bit more effective, as we've seen, with a couple two-man impales thus far, so he'll be able to hang back and get a little bit more done in these fights, and maybe prove to us that the Nyx Assassin pick was worth it. Still, though, I feel like there's a few better offlaners that could have replaced him, but either way, Root gonna scout around the pit. There's still no Roche for at least 1 minute at minimum spawn, and they're not going to find anyone quite yet. They do have the gem here, though. We'll do a little bit of de-warding.
Right, so Nard, they are going to know that Monkeys is packing that gem, so Storm Spirit, if he wasn't the prime target #1, he definitely is right now. They do have to defend this bottom lane, and for Root, this is an opportunity for them to actually get a pick off and apply some pressure back towards the Gnar side of the base, but it seems like they just don't want to go in. They have all their mobility tools, like they have a Force Staff and a Blink on Rubik. My god, Fluff has a lot of cash, but Lina has that Eul Scepter, has that Shadow Blade, Storm Spirit is Storm Spirit, but they just can't find any targets right now. Even after taking out most of the map vision from Gnar, Root, they know that they're moving around, hidden and everything like that, but they just can't find anyone.
Yeah, unfortunately, the movement just a little bit too late for them. Nice play from Gnar, straddling kind of the boundaries of life and death there from MSS. They do get the bottom lane pushed out. He was alone. Korok was alone, and I'm pretty sure they had vision with the wave to know that there was no more than one hero behind him. But with that armlet up, 1800 plus HP plus a pipe means they really don't have the burst to kill him off before support is inbound. So Root opting not to go for it there. They do plant down a little bit of aggressive vision on the cliff. They had one up on the high ground as well, but that was promptly de-warded by the Radiant side.
It's been a really long time since I've seen a Bristleback not go for Sanjin Yasha. Is he going for it right now? Oh, he's going for it right now. Okay, well, I was just about to say, this is actually a really cool build. Like, you are so tanky with this armlet, 1900 HP, and you're protecting that 1900 HP with increased magic resist from the pipe, as well as that additional armor from the AC. Of course, when you have 16k net worth, you will be very tanky if you're a Bristleback. That's pretty much bottom line, but yeah, it is actually working out pretty well for him and the team, especially that pipe. It's just been scaring Root away in many of these fights. They're going to walk in, claim a tier 2, pretty easily done there. Maybe have to worry about the top lane a little bit, but really right now it's Gnar that are just setting up for this Roshan. It's going to respawn in just about a minute.
Yeah, with Korok on the front lines, they're so scary in terms of their 5-men. They're able to keep their Lion back, who has the Blink. They're able to keep MSS back, who has the Blink. The Earthshaker
Korok
has a Blink of his own as well.
Stomp. Mystic Flare is there, as well as the Amplification. They dump everything, including a BKB from Guanzo into that Bristleback. Nice kill for sure, but can't they get anything else? Because they just burned most of their payload. Guanzo going to get hit with the Fissure. They're going to Requiem the Centaur. Okay, I don't know if he deserved that, but got him, I guess. He's down for a minute, as is the Bristleback. I think Root need the Centaur a little bit more than Gnar need their Bristleback, though. With Roshan respawning in just a little bit, I think Gnar can still go for it.
Yeah, the initiation is there from Monkeys, but without an Orchid, without an Hex, he's not the scariest to jump in, so Gnar still definitely can pit fight pretty well. They did blow the Requiem, however, so that's a lot of their damage, I guess. But they are looking on the aggressive MSS in the front lines with his Vendetta here. DK, though, does have the Euls to dodge a stun and the Shadow Blade to follow it up with, so should be just fine to survive for now. Right as I was about to talk about a tanky Bristleback, he gets blown up in the mid lane, but either way, Gnar's still looking pretty good at this point, and with that regen from the pipe, it's almost like he doesn't even lose health with his armlet toggle.
Well, I mean, for the Bristleback, like, if you have a heart there, do you even survive? Like, that's a hell of a lot of damage coming out from it. Definitely takes them longer, because I think they wasted a little bit of Laguna Blade there. Like, it didn't actually get full value with the damage, but like Bristleback, any hero really, doesn't really matter what you have. If you get jumped by that many Root heroes, you're probably just going to die. Now with the Bristleback back up, they will maybe position again for this Roshan. Bristleback does offer that minus armor, or additional minus armor, let's say, to that Roche, but man, Gnar, they can get it. Like, they have enough damage for sure, but they just have to worry about Storm, Lina, Rubik, everyone on Root jumping in and messing up their Roshan and actually grabbing that Aegis.
Yeah, a lot of vision from the Dire side here. around the pit. They certainly do have the potential to steal an Aegis, so maybe looking for Gnar to do their work for them as they did the first iteration of Roche. Looking for Guanzo's level 16, perhaps by the Ancients here, but he's not quite going to find that just yet. There are a couple of creeps scouting them out. Meanwhile, Ush's illusions doing some chip damage, pretty much negligible to the tier 3 at this point, but Gnar making a movement once again with MSS at the helm in the mid lane.
Double invis. It's the Storm Spirit with the gem, and Storm Spirit is not really close to Skywrath Mage. Vendetta, Impale, Mana Burn to get the kill, and MSS finally shows some value. They're also going to jump in onto a couple other heroes, though. Monkey's Forever going to go right on top of MSS. Will get the kill in an instant. That Assassin didn't last for very long. Ush with BKB is doing quite a bit of damage, but not really enough, as everyone from Root with their mobility are going to get safely back into their base. Another 1-for-1, this time probably a little bit better for Root, as they do drop the Shadow Fiend's BKB now down to minimum duration. And that's something that Nick Assassin, well, you're kind of banking on him doing for the great portion of the game. It should take him a lot sooner than 37 minutes to actually get those types of kills.
Yeah, certainly so. I mean, they dropped Guanzo's BKB to 6 seconds as well, which was a little bit of a kind of tentative pop from him as he jumps out looking for the stomp on the Earthshaker. But either way, as you mentioned, everyone able to extricate themselves from danger for the side of Root. They're going to smoke immediately and go towards Roche. They should have the clear vision from the Remnant here, but they're going to find no one in the pit now. We'll see if they look to take this themselves. They're going to be a lot slower at taking it than Gnar will, though, so they'll think better of it, and they're going to have to push out their top lane.
Yeah, both sides have to be conscious of this Roshan, but they won't very easily be able to go for it. Unless Ush finds himself like a random butterfly on the ground, then he can just walk in, solo it, and the rest of Gnar will be very, very ready to back him up should shit hit the fan. They will just go in, though. And where is this Storm Spirit? He's very far away, up on top lane, just use a TP to get there. And because the Storm Spirit's not there, I don't know if Root can actually grab it this time. Jump in from Guanzo, once again, 2-man hoof stomp, Roshan jumping low, but it's still alive for now. It's gonna die to the Dire, grabbed by Bristleback, however, and now they're gonna focus on Guanzo. Pipe is up on everyone, and Ush taking no damage, is gonna go to town on everyone. That's a nice telekinesis stunning out both Korok and Ush, but they're not done yet. Bleak gonna jump forward, looking for a disable onto DK, does see him, but will get Yules before he can actually make a play. Fogged, though, with the gem, grabbed from the dead Storm Spirit, gonna go for DK, can't quite find it. Chad and MSS both going the wrong way, but they'll blink forward for more. Random sentry here for the Radiant, and they'll go for DK. I think he's right outside of range, but he's no more longer in Viz, and it'll be a kill for the Lion, not to mention the fact that they do walk away with the Aegis on the Bristleback. What structures are Root gonna lose now? Because I'm pretty sure Gnar gonna take something.
Yeah, this could even be GG. No buyback available to the Lina or the Centaur at this point. This will definitely be at least the melee racks, if not a full lane and more top lane. The Glyph is available, though, and the Hex stolen from Fluff will delay things out momentarily. But it only seems inevitable. Jump forward from Fog. He's going to hit the Fissure onto Jason. It's only going to delay things up, though. Blink from Fluff and stuff will catch him a Fissure of his own. But only going to delay up at least the push on the full lane. Melee racks now going to drop down and easily beating it up with the armlet and the AC there for Korok. He'll take the full lane, and big risk, a big reward play coming out from the Centaur, and the Storm Spirit at the Roche pit definitely fails for Root.
They pretty much made the correct timing for that jump, but just didn't have the right focus fire into the Roshan. They were awkwardly stumbling around, looking to grab that Aegis, but Roshan wasn't even dead yet, so Root, they end up losing their first sets of Raxes. It's far from the end of the world for them, but still, I mean, like, Storm Spirit hasn't really done anything in the past couple of minutes with his Bloodstone. He's done nothing but drop star charges. He's gonna get a little bit here, though. He catches Fogged up on the high ground, trying to TP out, and he will get that kill very, very easily.
It's a gem.
Shaker. Usually you're gonna be safe there, but not always. That's gonna be the gem back in the hands of the Storm.
Yeah, I mean, that's a nice pickup for Monkeys just because it's a gem there. A little bit more worth it than a normal support kill. He has picked up some control now this in the Hex. Did buy that up before the fight, but I'm not sure that he shipped it out on the Courier before he jumped in. So it didn't look like he hexed up anyone in the pit there, but either way, yeah, as you mentioned, him and Guanzo just hanging around kind of maybe just a fraction of a second too early there, as the Roche still needed a couple right clicks to be brought down, and they take a Requiem to the face, and everything goes pretty poorly for them there. Meanwhile, Ush has picked up a full Satanic on top of his Manta.
Oh, and there's a double damage on Korok. He's hitting so hard, even without any stacks of that Warpath. So it looks like Gnar, they're going to set their sights on another high ground push. That's actually going to be a lot more difficult than the last because everyone on route, they're alive and they have a fresh BKB on the Lina, but sometimes when you have that magic blue rune, you just got to go for it. Guanzo, got to watch for his jump in. That's actually going to be Monkeys Forever. He jumps right into that Yule Scepter, however. Spike is there onto Monkeys Forever. Guanzo going to jump in for a nice two-man hoof stomp. Double edge to MSS, LSA, and Laguna Blade. That'll get the kill instantly, but Fodix there with the Fisher onto Guanzo and Monkeys. They have to Stampede to disengage. Ush doing a lot of damage, but not quite enough. Now awkwardly blocked off by Fluff and Stuff, though he will Manta jump to the other side of that fissure. Nyx is going to buy back. Gnar, they're going to go for the kill right now, and Root, they still have more or less everything, with the exception being that Centaur ultimate. They're going to jump in for Korok. He's going to lose his Aegis. That's fine for Gnar. That's what it's for. Monkeys Forever still camping around that Aegis respawn area, and they'll jump back onto Korok with the amplification. The right-click damage is huge. Korok dropping very low, will be going down. It looks like no, he's still alive. Now with the Requiem and the Echo Slam onto the Storm Spirit, they'll keep the Bristleback alive as Usher's on the front lines under absolutely no pressure the entire time because it was the Bristle of all heroes to take the focus. Now they have to actually stop Ush, but Root, do they have enough gas in the tank? I don't think they do. Chad very low on mana, but Ush is very high on damage, and Guanzo, you don't really want to jump into the Shadow Fiend, but you have to just to try to stall things out, but it doesn't even work. The Rax is dropped. Now Guanzo is going to die to the Fissure as well. It's actually Ush to grab that kill, but it's not only going to be that kill and the Storm Spirit kill, but it should also be the complete set of Raxes over in the mid lane. Gnar still with the ability to fight right now. They will jump in right onto DK. Ush still alive, even after a Laguna Blade. Pop the BKB. One more hit will kill off DK, but he just can't quite get in range. That's fine, though. Sometimes you got to show some mercy and just take the objectives, and the objectives for Gnar will be claimed. Mystic Flare going to be split by everyone. Going to do not too much. So now 2 Raxes ahead. Gnar, will they lose anyone on the retreat? Because here comes the Storm Spirit. Going to buy back and go straight for Korok and Chad, but there's a Hex. And now Korok's damage output onto Monkeys. Chad does have an Earthspike to follow up. Perfect chain stun there, and they'll kill out the Storm Spirit. Fissure from the Rubik a little bit too late. Now Fluff and Stuff caught with the Eye of Scotty is on the run. Has Yule Scepter, which will be used to slow down Ush, but will it slow him down enough? It looks like it will. Gnar, they don't lose a single hero on the retreat. That play costed them 1 buyback on the Nyx, and I think that's it.
Yeah, the Bristleback surviving there was huge. I think, again, we just see a little bit of miscommunication, a little bit of layering from the spells from Root. They dropped the Overload and the Hoof Stomp exactly the same time on the Bristleback. Then the Mystic Flare half missed on him as he was being pulled in by the Overload, and that's just huge that he survives in that one. And then Monkeys at the very end getting super aggressive, jumping into all that Disable without vision. And unfortunately for Root, it's looking to be past the point of no return now, 2 lanes of racks down, and taking a look at the metrics, almost a 15k net worth lead, 10k in the way of experience.
And look at that gold lead climb in favor of Gnar. The fact that they got the Bristleback out of there, just like insult injury. Even if he did go down, Root still waste all of their skills going onto this super, super tanky hero. And after that for Gnar, like, you have a Shadow Fiend still alive and kicking very hard at that. Like, I don't really know that it would have gone much different if Root got that kill, but now Gnar, with the 2 sets of Raxes, can slow roll this as slowly as they want, but they're not going to. They're going to buy out for a Daedalus on Ush, and there's also a Basher on that Bristleback with another 3,300 gold. Maybe he gets an Abyssal Blade by the time this game ends, but they're looking to end it pretty darn shortly. Root, they really didn't put much of a defense up for both top and mid. And it's so much harder now. They have to make a desperation play and wrap around. They don't have the Shadow Blade on Lina just yet. They don't really have great vision either. And if they jump into anyone, it'll be Korok because he's right in front of the enemies. I think the Courier might have seen that Static Remnant.
Yeah, the flying vision from the Courier probably would have seen him. Korok just looking to be the one to be initiated on. He will get hexed up, jump in from Monkeys, but the support is all available to them. The Echo Slam is going to be there, but they blow him up with the Laguna Blade, and they've got Ancient Seal up onto Korok. He's going to Abyssal up as he buys it onto Monkeys. He'll pop the pipe as well, but he'll drop into an LSA and be finished off by the Dragon Slave. On the backside, though, Ush going to pick off the Centaur and the Skywrath, and so far, it's a 2 for 2, and there looks like Gnar are going to continue the push at this point.
Well, Ush is still at full HP, and if he drops any HP, then I'm pretty sure that Satanic will get him back up to full in no time. Ush is, for all intents and purposes, 6-slotted, maybe travels instead of treads, but for right now you want treads for that additional aggressive power. For Root, they actually make that commitment to the Bristleback, and even though there was that blink in from the Shaker, Echo Slam being used, not really to too much avail since Root were mostly magic immune at that point, and Bristleback doesn't really have any heroes to provide him any cover at that point, as the rest of Gnar were off doing their own things. It's a trade for Root that they will be very happy to make. If they can make an even trade for the enemy bristleback, yeah, they're going to be making it every single time, but it's just going to buy them a little bit of time. It's going to make it so that they don't immediately die in this game. Still, how are they actually going to win? Because not dying is not the same as winning.
Yeah, certainly so. And the Bristleback only going to join them in 20 seconds. Fogg already making his way over. Blink 4 staff available to him to get there if he needs to in a moment's notice. And he will jump forward. Hex in the ball lining onto Ush, but he'll be able to get off his BKB. No problem here. Monkeys has already popped his. They'll jump forward onto MSS though, and they will be able to bring him down despite the Vendetta and trying to force away there from Fogg. So they get a clean pick on the Nyx, and this will at least stymie the push from the Radiant side for a little while.
Yeah, every single kill that Root grabs right now is going to mean that Gnar are not actively pushing their base. Also, Roshan, the respawn timer is going to be very luckily in favor of Root, as it's a minute before the Nyx Assassin can come back up again, and Root know that the Nyx Assassin previously used buyback, so Roshan is theirs for the taking, although I'm not really convinced that they have enough damage to convincingly do that. Even 4v5 for Gnar, because they do have their Bristle and their Shadow Fiend alive, they can probably take a Roche fight. Root, they're not super strong at this stage, and though the timing is going to work out for them, they're just not powerful enough to actually take the Aegis. And even if they do, an Aegis cheese, it's going to give them a better chance at winning, but still, how do they actually turn this deficit around?
Yeah, knowing that they do have the vision control around the pit, though, or at least on the Dire side, they are going to make a break for this Roshan pit. But it looks like immediate reactions from Gnar. It's almost like they knew. Fear and PPD sitting in the stream today. Maybe a little stream. Nah, I'm kidding. Root in the pit. They're going to go in, jump, ball lightning, Mystic Flare out onto Ush. He didn't get his BKB off, and he will go down first. They're going to jump forward for Chad as well, and he's going to drop next. They will get a Fissure and an Impale force to the low ground. Very nice from Chad. He's actually able to blink out, but this could mean a sure Roshan for Root if there's not a buyback, which is available now for Ush, but they do have to TP back, at least Jason, back to the base here, so definitely Gnar can look to fight.
Well, and this Roshan is dropping very slowly as well. That was a great pickoff for Root, not just because of Shadow Fiend, because Roshan is right next to it, literally right next to where that kill happened. Korok, oh man, he is known for making some pretty ballsy aggressive plays, but it's a little bit too late if they decide to go over. They're going to pipe up first, blink it for Monkeys Forever, spike through from the Nyx Assassin, secondary spike from Chad. Monkeys Forever not going to move anywhere for a very long time, but neither is Korok. He's up on the cliff. It finally worked out for Fluff after all, but he's going to get forced that down. Fogg has to blink in pretty aggressively for it, but he will make it happen. Now they're going to go and Fluff himself with the Abyssal Blade. He'll be brought down. Monkey's Forever completely out of mana. Will lose his Aegis very quickly. Is Chad packing the disables? He is. I think this Storm Spirit is probably going to die again unless Centaur comes in. He's going to come in, go for MSS, however. Monkey's Forever pops the BKB, and we'll get out at the same time they kill off the Nyx Assassin. Now Monkey's going to go straight for Chad. Stuck in a corner. LSA, Dragon Slave will get the kill, but an Echo Slam is going to get them one, and it might get them more. DK and Guanzo stuck in a corner. Fluffen's going to buy back, as is Monkeys. They're going to try to go for Korok right now, and Korok without backup simply cannot tank all of this damage up against literally the entire draft of Root Gaming right now. They grab the Aegis. They actually use the Aegis, and they actually come away with a victory, but their base is still kind of messed up. But I think Root, they actually did take a pretty convincing win there.
Yeah, overall, I mean, they forced the Monkeys buyback there, but it's certainly well worth it. They bring down the Bristle once again. He does have buyback available. I'm a little bit puzzled as to why Ush didn't buy back. That fight was so drawn out there. As soon as they put the Bristle up on the pit or up on the hill, the cliff, they know that Root is going to hang around, and I'm a little curious. It's a little curious to me as to him not buying back and getting into that fight. But as you mentioned, Root takes quite a bit of benefit from this one. Then now Lina has a Hex as well as travels of her own. Monkeys over in the mid lane is going to be jumped forward on by Fogg. He'll get hexed up. LSA is there. Laguna Blade, no Dragon Slave though, and they're going to have to jump forward to finish him off, and they won't be able to do so. Unfortunately, no Dragon Slave coming out from DK.
Yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate. It is a lot of damage, and you assume that the enemy Shaker is going to be very weak, but it's level 16 for the Shaker. That's not too bad as far as his levels are concerned, at least as far as all the supports are concerned. He is not the easiest support to kill off in the game. If it was a Crystal Maiden, yeah, that probably would have killed her like 3 times over, but it's not. It's actually a strength hero. So 29-22, Gnar. They have the 6-slotted Shadow Fiend still. They do have a lot of gold in the Shadow Fiend because he didn't buy back, and I do think it probably would have been better for him to buy back, but I'm just going to chalk it up to Ush just not agreeing with that fight there, or just not willing to be a participant in that fight. Either way, they're looking for a pick on Guanzo. He does not see MSS right around the corner, and there's no backup actually. They will have to fall back, but yeah, Gnar, their aggressive plays in this game have pretty much completely ceased. at least Root now have a much better fighting chance, especially if they can keep jumping onto the Shadow Fiend. That's what they have to do. Ignore Korok at least until the SF is dead. And once the SF is dead, then you can take that fight shortly thereafter. But is a smoke up for Root. They're only as 4 though. No, Guanzo's right around the corner. Okay, they will run around and try to catch someone. Unfortunately, Gnar, they're going to leave this area as soon as Root arrives. So Gnar dodging death, and I don't even know if they know about it.
Yeah, jumping forward, though, onto the mid. They'll get the Hex off onto Ush. He won't be in the range of the Mystic Flare, though. He gets forced back out by his teammates. He's going to be Vortexed up, but he'll get the BKB off. Echo Slam doesn't do a whole lot, but Root going to be, or Guanzo going to be held down for the finger. DK next to fall. Big right clicks from the Illusions. Monkey's trying to TP out. Will be successful in doing so, but still 3-0. And the Shadow Fiend just proving a little bit too tanky with that Scotty and the Satanic, and they force him out of the Mystic Flare as well. He still has quite a bit of HP ready to go for this GG push. Guanzo gonna get blinked on with the Hex there. Mana Burn is there as well. Jump forward from Monkeys. He's gonna pull back Korok. It's only gonna try and keep Guanzo up for now, though. Guanzo, huge right clicks coming out from Ush will bring him down, and only 2 up. No buybacks available. Looks like we're gonna see GG in game 1.
Force Staff Gaming right there. Ush was stunned up for the entire time. He probably could have just taken his hands off the keyboard and just, let the stuns run their course, but it was the supports, or I guess the, I'm going to call it an assassin support. It's the supports from the Gnar side that save the Shadow Fiend there. Double Force Staff, making it so that Root just can't get a bead on where the Shadow Fiend is actually going to end up. I don't know who it was. It was a mixture of Bleak, Fogged, and MSS. They all have the Force Staffs on the Gnar side, but they keep the Shadow Fiend alive, and then once the Satanic comes up, it's all over for Root. All their damage output down the drain from that point. So it is going to be Gnar's victory in a 51-51 game, guys. We will go to game 2 in this best of 3 in just a minute. So don't go anywhere, guys. Gnar versus Root will continue in just a bit.